Hi, welcome to Learning Leaders Spotlight, the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to help people wanting to be learning leaders tomorrow. I'm your host, Leanne Langford. I'm the president of Training Pros. Training Pros is an L&D contract staffing company. We like to say, when you have more projects than people, let us find the best consultant to start your project with confidence. I am really pleased today to have a guest with me from a company I've worked with for many years, over the last decade. It's Jennifer Padilla-Lewis. She is the Senior Director of Learning Portfolio at Infor. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you, Leanne.
We're really pleased to have you here.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Yes. First question, could you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jennifer Padilla-Lewis. I lead our learning portfolio management team here at Infor. And you might be asking yourself, what is Infor? So we are a global software company. We sell industry-specific solutions. So think of some of our competitors like SAP and Oracle. We go to market with ERP solutions, HCM software, et cetera. So my team helps to curate a prescriptive learning journey of assets across hundreds of different products in our portfolio across multiple different platforms. And we partner with a variety of different audiences. We serve our customers, employees, and partners. And so we create content that serves all three of them. There are three different pillars to the portfolio team. The first pillar is focused on product training. The second pillar is focused on performance support. So you can think of that as like compliance training or professional skills, different learning and development needs across the ecosystem that live within. So think about like our implementation strategy that would fall under performance support. And then finally, our brand new production team. That team's been instantiated over the last 18 months, and we help to develop our own internal podcast, much like this.
That must be fun. I know it's fun for us to do a podcast.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, podcasting is a great learning tool. I don't think we take advantage of it enough in learning and development.
Well, I think that one of the things that it's opened the door for us, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more, is, adult learning happens at different parts within the ecosystem. You're learning as you're onboarding, reading brochures and watching YouTube videos and so on. And so I think that now we have this amazing opportunity with podcasting to learn on the go, to learn from personal storytelling. And so it's really opened the door, at least for our internal audiences, to expand beyond the traditional, e-learning, self-directed learning, virtual instructor-led training that we've traditionally done.
Fantastic. So what first attracted you to the field of learning and development?
That's a good question. I often say that many of us probably stumbled into this industry. Maybe that's not the case for you, but a lot of the different learning leaders that I have engaged with have told me, much like me, that I've accidentally jumped in here. I don't really know how I ended up here. But I found that I've always been driven by how we can improve. How can we work better, faster, smarter? And education is really always at the center of that. So like early in my career, I took a role that was really focused on creating a training program from scratch, onboarding and facilitating an enablement. And what I found was that I really had a passion for engaging with the audience and, hearing their reactions to our content and iterating on that and being a part of, their journey with a company or their journey with us as customers. So I just love the idea that, we're constantly learning and evolving, and, anything that we can do to help be a part of that is super innovative, exciting. So never a boring moment.
Never a boring moment. Yes, that's one of the beautiful things about L&D is that it's not a repetitive type of thing. You're always doing something new, always trying to innovate, always trying to solve a new problem.
Yeah, I agree. No, and it gives you an opportunity to have a creative outlet in a corporate environment, which is fun. So it's been like I said, every year, every day, I learn something new.
I love that answer. Yeah, we do. We get all kinds of answers of people who have driven straight to training and people who accidentally found it. And
well, it's funny because when I took that job, I was actually studying for the LSAT. and I was ready. I took a gap year before gap years were even a thing. And I said, you know what? I actually really am enjoying this, and law school's expensive. Let me, take a break from all of this. And I got great scores and I had my applications ready to go. And I decided, you know what? This is going to help fund my LSAT. And I took a left turn and found myself an MBA and, a team of learning leaders instead. So it's not a linear path by any means.
And that's the way the corporate world is now. No more corporate climb the ladder. It's go through a maze of directions to get where you are today.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah. Yes. What are the biggest changes you've seen in the last few years in L&D?
So I think we've alluded to that, a little bit earlier in our conversation, but I think the technology that is at our fingertips have really transformed the way that learning is delivered. In just a few years, we found our primary audience was receiving content using instructor-led experience, right? I remember being a facilitator on the road, going to the different organizations and presenting in front of rooms of 500. And that's not the case anymore, right? And it's not just COVID that changed that. It really is the technology, I think, and the attention economy that we have. We've really transitioned to more modularized, blended learning, asynchronous learning, just in time within the platform to meet the learner at their moment of need. So today we have so much more flexibility with the tooling capabilities that we have that we previously didn't have. Our methodology is different, right? We want to be able to deliver content in bite-sized chunks. No one has the time to sit through the monolithic courseware that of the past, right? And so I found that, the modality offerings have vastly changed things, and that's all due to the technology. And I'm sure that we're going to see even more of that acceleration happening in the coming years.
I couldn't agree more. I've seen a lot of changes. I've been in the L&D field 32 years. There's a lot
Yeah.
of changes over 30
Yes,
years.
I'm sure you've seen it all.
Yes, yes.
Get ready for the next 30.
Well, we'll see. But I remember when PowerPoint was new. That's how. And
Hey, I use my flip chart in my day as well. There was something to be said about having great handwriting so that everyone in the room could see what you were doing.
yes, yes. And being tall enough to reach the whiteboard.
Well, that is not something I could do. I was always in heels for that reason.
Yes, I'm a short one. So where do you think we're headed in the next 5 years? What do you think we're going to look, L&D is going to look like?
If I had a crystal ball, right? Well, I'll tell you, I think we're definitely at the precipice of recognizing the impact that AI is going to have on our business. There's so much conversation happening across the ecosystem about, how that's going to impact our content creation, our processes, everything from our reliance to SMEs to our translation capabilities, right? It used to take us so much time to go to market with that. And so, again, going back to the tooling, I think that's going to really transition how we offer and deliver training. But I'm really excited. I'm sure everyone else is too, right? The accessibility, the ability to have adaptive learning. I just recently saw a YouTube video of Khan Academy and the ability to have a personalized tutor. And, that I think is going to happen more and more. So it's going to impact the way that we learn much more than any other technology that we've seen in the past.
I saw that YouTube video as well. It amazed me.
Good one, right?
I said, where was that when I was helping my kids with homework?
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think you gave a great example about, the PowerPoint and, that's exactly how it's going to feel, right? But much faster.
Oh yeah, the speed of change has accelerated like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So adaptability is the key word of the year. What skill or role do you think is the hardest to find in L&D today?
That's interesting. I'm a little bit of the mindset that it's not just today, this is just in general. We probably are always looking for folks who are strategic thinkers that can help be consultative and guide folks to their learning outcome. It's especially now with the ability to learn tooling, that's something that anyone can pick up. And there's so much content out there on adult learning principles and what good looks like and so on. So I think nurturing that early on in the career is super important. So finding folks that are multidimensional, that can help guide their stakeholders. Oftentimes people knock on our door and say, I want this, right? But they don't have the idea of the slew of options that are available to us at our fingertips, right? So to be able to respectfully challenge and offer an art of the possible, right? To help them get to their objectives and to do so with grace and with courtesy and creativity is super important. And so rather than just having tunnel vision and, it's very easy to say, yeah, I can do that. And you have a happy customer, right? But to offer up all of these solutions without intimidating your stakeholder and without, with having them see the vision, I think is super important. And so to do so, you have to have a combination of different skill sets, right? You need to be able to articulate your vision, ask very great, follow-up questions to scope out the need, and then they can trust you. And that innate trust, again, is something else that you need to be able to build that rapport. So again, tooling and things like that, I think that are very easy to find and pick up. But that strategy, that consultative skill is something that we should all have and strive to look for in any of our new hires.
It's interesting because you're talking about the skills that are more either innate or you've been through a lot of more soft skills type coaching and training to get there, rather than you should know articulate or you should know how to work with AI or
Right. Well, because I think, today it's easier than ever to learn tooling, and obviously time and experience, there's nothing that can take that away from you for sure. You'll learn your shortcuts and so on. And there's so many great templates out there now, and there's so many great, forums. And I mean, again, you can perfect that craft, but there's something to be said about connecting with your stakeholder to ensure that your project is successful. And the speed at which we're going, I think that's something that you're going to be able to, that we should spend significant amount of time on, so that our development is spent on, our resources are spent on valuable investments.
I think that that's a great answer. And it also goes along with what's happening with AI because the work with the tools is probably going to be less and less and less of our jobs as we go.
Yeah. You've done it.
So where do you find your industry news? Where do you learn about what's happening?
I mean, for a lot of us probably follow a lot of the same types of trends, ATD, TSIA, SEDMA. But I think it's also important to stay abreast of the news that matters to your constituents, going back to that consultative hat. What is it that your stakeholders and learners are looking for to meet their needs? Being able to be in tune with that, I think, is super important in our world. So I make it a point to always, flag. I don't have enough time during my work week, but on Friday afternoons, I take a look at all of my folders and any newsletter that was sent my way. And then I take a quick peek and I often, share that with my team and, any webinars that I missed that I bookmarked, I listen to there. But there's so much information out there now. So, if there's a topic that I find that there's kind of like a gap in my knowledge bank, I typically spend Friday afternoon kind of going through that. And, again, those resources are always sending great things out.
They really are. You can learn a lot from the webinar. I do the same thing. I will register for a webinar and then hope that they're going to send me the link later because there's no way I can do it in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I'll watch probably a couple of webinars a week and I'll at least skim newsletters and I often will stop and click something, but most of the time, yeah, the webinars give me a lot. And LinkedIn tells me what's important to people right now. I like
Yeah.
to read that too.
That's great.
Yeah. So if you were going to recommend a book to somebody who's trying to move into learning leadership, what book would you recommend?
So I'm looking at my bookshelf now because there's tons of different books that and I also have two little kids. So my time spent reading is not as, I don't have that investment that I used to have. Some of my favorite authors are really focused on leadership development in general, Simon Sinek and Brene Brown, Adam Grant. I think the last one I read was Atomic Habits. But if you're starting a new role, and it doesn't have to necessarily be an L&D, I really love The First 90 Days. It's an easy and practical book kind of helps you with the practical knowledge that you need to evaluate your situation. And it gives leaders kind of a tooling and a framework to assess what their role looks like and evaluate their next steps. I think a lot of us make the mistake of just, or I know I would have otherwise, right? We just want to get in there and fix and do and so on. And it gives you that moment to pause and reflect and do your proper analysis before going in and giving recommendations, to my earlier point, right? So I think those are some nice reminders. And again, there's always great content. Rather than spending time reading on the books, I would say find out what is going on that's the latest and greatest, because the technology is changing quickly, because you're staying on top of what's relevant to your industry is so important. But there's something to be said about just that foundational leadership to be able to guide your team, to connect with them, and to really evaluate where they're at. Um, that's something that is always a good reminder, regardless of what industry you're in, and learning and development is no different. I mean, if we're learning leaders, we need to walk the walk and talk the talk, right? We need to spend the time to ensure that we're, investing in our leadership abilities just as much.
That's a great book recommendation. I haven't read it in a while, so I think I should go pick that one up again. I just did it. You mentioned Atomic Habits. I did that one. I read that one last year. So
Oh, good. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I thought, I have a 2-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. So I remember, as I was transitioning into my role with the big belly, I had that one right on top.
that's great. I love that you still have some time to read it. I remember when I had a 2-year-old, I was on a business call and I said, well, let me get my handy dandy notebook because I'm so inundated with Blue's Clues at the
Well, it's funny because, I really do mean it. We need to lead by example. And I try to instill in my children a love of learning and reading. And, again, reading is at the center of education. So whenever we spend time reading their book, mommy can spend some time reading hers too.
I love it. That's great. Um, well, I mean, this has been a really nice conversation, Jennifer. I've enjoyed talking to you and getting to know more about you. As a thank you, I would like to plant 5 trees in your name. We're currently planting in urban reforestation, so inside inner cities, planting trees where they need to be reforested. And I'll send you a certificate that says that. That's our charity here at Training Pros. We plant trees around the world. So
I love that. I love that. That's such a great, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And this has been fun.
it has been fun. So thanks again for being on the Learning Leader Spotlight. I hope everybody tunes in again next week for the next episode. And again, thank you so much, Jennifer. And I can't wait to learn more about what you do.
Awesome. Thank you.